New Maybelline Serum Lipstick. Maybe it's not just lipstick, it's lush color with endless possibilities. It's serum infused with a hyaluronic acid and oil blend for 8-hour plumping moisture in tone-enhancing shades. It's more than the shade, it's who's wearing it. You. New Maybelline Serum Lipstick.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
Hi there, and welcome to Raising Me. I'm Adrienne Stein. Thank you so much for listening today. And of course, we want to say a big thank you to our sponsor of Sweetser Behavioral Health as well. So let's talk about it. We're going to talk about some big feelings, tantrums, in other words, because as many of you know, those do not end after the age of 2. Oh no. I mean, have you ever thought, why is this such a big reaction, especially with older kids and your teens? Big feelings show up at every age. Of course, toddlers melt down in public. Been there. Big kids might lash out after school. For teens, maybe it's shutting down or withdrawal, or maybe they explode over something that seems really pretty small, or God forbid you ask a question in the wrong tone or at the wrong time. You know, as parents, it can be so hard to know what to do in that moment. Do you comfort? Do you correct? Walk away? Hold boundary? And how do we stay calm when our own nervous system is on fire? So today we're talking about tantrums and big feelings at any age. Rebecca Hoffman is with us. She is the Senior Director of Clinical Innovation and Training at Maine Behavioral Healthcare, a longtime family therapist as well. Rebecca helps us understand what is happening when kids get dysregulated, what happens in the moment, and how to respond in ways that support our kids and not leaving us feeling totally drained. Plus, we're going to talk about repair, which is so important, particularly when our response isn't what we want it to be. Check it out. Rebecca, I am so glad to have you back. This is really exciting because I just love checking in with you and catching up with you.
Me too.
And these are some really great topics that we're going to talk about today. First and foremost, this idea of big feelings. You often think of tantrums as little, the terrible twos. We all hear it, even 3. But we're talking about big feelings really at any age because as you and I both have teenagers or preteens, we know that those big feelings happen actually throughout every phase of childhood. So just curious if you have any epic tantrum or meltdown stories, because I feel like as parents, we all have one, right?
We all do. And we all hold on to it deep in our brains of the pain of it.
Yes.
And I have one from actually I don't remember the store, but a supermarket one where it was very typical of not saying no to something, sugar cereal or something or candy, and just starting my son just starting throwing things out of the cart. Like he was sitting in the cart and he was actually sitting down. He likes
in the big part.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's way more fun.
Way more fun. But it was just like throwing things. And the only thing I knew to do was just move, right? Like I tried picking things up, but they kept, And it was, I remember, and right, I'm a therapist, but I still
right.
We all have those, and we all remember them painfully and don't know what to do in the moment.
Oh my gosh. I remember the one that first comes to mind if somebody were to say, well, what was that tantrum for you? There were kind of 2. One was at a mall and the other was at the Magic House, which is in St. Louis, which is just the most fun place for a 2, 3, 4-year-old, as you can imagine. And I was there with my oldest, Livy, and it was time to go. She was not interested in going. And I just remember her, oh my gosh, she threw herself on the floor and just was like dead weight. And it was like, oh my gosh, and you try to reason and it's time to go. We've been here for 2 hours, all the things, to where I can't remember if my husband or I, we like basically picked her up and put her over our shoulder.
Right, like the fireman carry, right?
And just got her out of there. And it was like all the stairs we got, walking out into the parking lot with just a very non-compliant, she was 3.5, maybe 4 at the time. Yeah. There was another mall situation that was very similar, actually.
We hold them deeply, and we all feel like the worst parent.
Oh, my gosh. And the stairs. And, I really do try to hold grace for parents that I see going through that, kind of like give that sympathetic, oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry. I know, I see you kind of thing, which I think is important.
Yes. I remember my sister having one on an airplane where she had an ear infection.
Oh.
And we didn't know. And so she cried it was a short flight. I think it was to Boston. And the people on the plane were like, why did you bring her? Thanks a lot for that. Because she cried. I mean, they were so cruel about, about it. And that.
So with kids, what is happening with kids from, just a therapy or a therapist's perspective? What is actually happening when they become so dysregulated like that? And many times over what seems like small things.
Right. It can seem like small things. I think the most important thing to remember is that children are not little adults. Mm-hmm. Their brains are not developed in the way ours are. And so when they feel something, they feel it big, and that they don't know what to do with that. They don't have the skills yet to know how to manage that inside them, right? It takes a lot of time and a lot of help to learn what to do with it. And it can be very scary for them to have a big feeling of anger, frustration, and many things affect it. If they're tired and they don't know that, right? They don't know that. All they know is that they're feeling something and they can't name it and they don't know what it is, and it's scary.
Yeah. So when a kid is escalated in that way, or they're deregulated, however you want to put it, what are some of the things they really can't do? Because, often we're, stand up, or, okay, you got to stop right now. We're in public, or whatever the things we as parents are, try to coach around.
Right.
What are some of the things they, might not be able to do when they're so dysregulated? And we're talking right now sort of in that smaller age, but we're going to talk about really every age and these feelings of dysregulation.
Yep. So for little kids, what I would say is the biggest thing is that the centers in the brain that have speech and listening have shut down. So trying to reason with them or teach them or anything with big words is not going to work. They, at that point, need, first of all, and this is the hardest one, is they need a calm parent.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, our human response when someone is escalated is to get to the level that they are. It's just the human response at any age, as adults too. So what do? Our voices get louder, and we get more frustrated. And the key is not to, as a parent, the goal isn't to be calm, it's to be calmer than your child. Because we all know, in those moments, especially when you're at the magic house or the grocery store or whatever, it's like it's hard to do calm. So calmer than your child is. So that would be the first step. And less words are better. Having a hand on their back and saying, I'm here for you. Because at that age, they don't know how to re-regulate. What they know how to do is co-regulate. So they take your regulation as their parent, and that's what brings them down. Not your words, not your punishment in particular. That's not the response that's going to work for them. it's going to escalate them further. It's to help them to re-regulate at that moment in time.
In the store. So again, those grocery store meltdowns, the magic house meltdowns, whatever it might be, is sort of taking a deep breath yourself, which easier said than done, Rebecca. Like, let's be real.
Absolutely.
But, and I think that comes also with experience in parenting too. We were way more chill by the time we had our third than we were with our first.
Right.
But, just that sort of co-regulating, I'm here for you, hand on the back, that kind of thing. That's the sort of direction to get out of it faster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because again, it's, so the way to think about it in your head is what's happening for them, not what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we see behavior and we think, what's wrong? Like what?
Yeah. Oh
and
my
just
gosh,
if we switch our frame of reference to what's happening inside my child right now, sometimes it brings a little bit more of like the compassion side in us instead of the mortified or exhausted or angry side. And it says, okay, they don't know what to do with what's going on for them right now. And I need to help bring them down from that before we can talk about it or do something about it. And so they need to see it and feel it inside their parent. It's called co-regulation.
Yeah, co-regulation. Yep. So that's really a key part of it.
Yeah.
Is there ever a time where you give them a little space? Like, and obviously you're not going to leave them at the store, but what if this tantrum or this meltdown is happening at home?
Sure.
When do you step in and when do you say, you know what, I'm going to give you a minute. I'm just going to be in the kitchen. I'll be here when you need me, kind of thing. Like, is there a difference there?
Well, and that's a beautiful, beautiful suggestion because what I'd say the first step is to check in with yourself, right? And regulate yourself. And so if you're feeling dysregulated, you need to care for that first, right? And so whether it's taking a deep breath or doing just what you said and saying, be like, I'm having big feelings too. I'm just going to be right there and I'm going to take some deep breaths. You're teaching them something, right? You're teaching them how to regulate, which as a parent, right, that's what we want in the long run. And we can start it as early as a young child is to say, like, mom's having big feelings too. I'm going to take some deep breaths and I'm right here and I'm going to come right back to you. Okay. And that's where, oftentimes for young kids, those timeouts are not always particularly useful when a child is really dysregulated because they don't know how to come down from that. And so it's scary for them more than useful.
Yeah. Okay. So that's, your typical toddler type ages. And I think there's another shift, and certainly in just talking to coworkers and friends and sort of remember it myself because it wasn't that long ago, is sort of that, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10, like sort of that when they become big kids and they have more responsibilities and they're doing more at school and they're navigating friendships in a much different way. Or, they come home and it's just like they're very quick tempered or they shut down, and it might be over homework or a snack or can't find your shoes, like any kind of thing, right? So how should parents react in those moments with that age kid?
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
I would say that that's often the toughest age because there's still a little kid often inside them that doesn't necessarily have the skills to manage. And so what to think about as a parent is still that, that goal of be calmer than my child, be calmer than my child, and to model that. And at that age, it's still like the parts of the brain that can think through and talk through in your child have not developed yet, or they're, whatever is developed is kind of shut down. They're in the emotional center of their brain. And so lots of like a conversation, it's not the time to have a conversation about what's going on for them. Really what we want to do is name feelings, because again, like they don't necessarily know that naturally. Like, I see that you are really upset. I see that you're really angry. Why don't you take a few minutes to calm down? And what I think is important, why I paused, is because there's kind of two parts at that age, is that you're both modeling and teaching regulation, but at that age is when sometimes they act out and do things almost, like to you. They say something to you that's unkind, like I hate you or something. And so there's two parts to your response that you want to teach them, is that it's not okay to say that to me, but I know you are having some big feelings right now, or you're really angry right now, whatever might be going on. Let's take a break and calm down, and we'll come back and talk. And so you do name that it's what's not okay in the fewest words that you can. And then you help regulate them. And then you loop back to what actually happened.
Is there, a way to tell what sort of defiance versus just the kid is overwhelmed and it's coming out as sort of defiant behavior?
Oftentimes there's factors like context that might be able to give you an answer to that. So, you're not seeing emotions, you're just seeing kind of a tug of war, or the child's personality. Some children are testing you, and
yes,
and really it comes down to, are they regulated? Are you seeing that they're regulated and they're doing that tug of war or whatever defiant behavior? Then the answer is not to help regulate them. The answer is to go right into the conversation about what's going on and the limits, right?
Like, you know what? I'm here for you, but you're not going to talk to me like that in that tone.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Right.
And I'll be here when you're ready to actually speak about X, Y, or Z.
Right. In a way that is kind and respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, this doesn't end either with 8 or 10 or 11 or 12-year-olds. Let's talk about teenagers. You have one at home. I actually have 2 at home.
Oh, boy.
Love that for us. And this is a kind of scenario that comes to my mind because both my teens are so different in this way. But even just the teen who might come home, say, yeah, day was fine, I'm fine, goes in the room, shut the door. And it's like, something's not fine, but you don't know how to push to get it out without being that annoying parent, those kinds of things. So, first on that kind of shutdown or big feelings for teens, the ones that kind of turn introverted, I'm fine, I don't want to talk about it. And your instinct is telling you that's not right.
Yeah. So again, oftentimes this depends on a child's personality. So the kids that turn inward are just as important to pay attention to as the outward kids. So you have your kids that show their feelings outside, and you have your kids that turn their feelings inside. And those are often the tougher situations to deal with, because that you can't pull it out. You can't, make them talk to you.
Try to make a 13-year-old do almost anything.
Exactly.
Let me know how it goes. Sure.
And it's, again, to remember that, and hopefully in an ideal world, this has been happening, through their childhood. But for any of us, we are doing the best we can as parents, is that we have modeled the language of emotions, right? And so they have a language for it. They have what we want to do before they leave the house is for them to have the knowledge of themselves, right? Like what dysregulation looks like and what they can do about it. When they're young, we have to do it for them because co-regulation is the only method they have. When they're a little older, we start to give them language, give them skills, ask them to take a few deep breaths. You start to teach them more skills for them to do on their own. And as a teenager, you hope that they can actually use those skills. In terms of the example you gave of the shutdown teenager, oftentimes, especially when they come home from school, they just need a little time.
Yeah.
And
decompression.
Yeah. As we all know, as adults, coming home from
that sounds good to me too. Frankly, right? Many days, yeah.
But I think they're still kids, right? Yeah. And they still want to know that you care and that you notice. And so, just what you said, like I see, that you got you need a little time. Like, let's come back to this, and having sort of these ways in place in your household to talk about emotions. Like, for example, if you're a family that a lot of families do, like the rose and thorn at dinner, where you talk about the best thing about your day and the maybe not greatest thing about your day, you're giving an opportunity to talk about emotions, right? Yeah. And so if you have these rituals that involve reflecting inward, then those are times that you might be able to help that teenager access what's going on for them. What I do with my teenager or suggest to parents is to give them space, but then come back to them.
Keep checking in
and reminding them that you have emotions too, and you have times when you struggle and you need some decompression time, but it's also, you're also there for them. Like you need another person sometimes to work through something. And you want to be that for them, right? You want to be that place where they can bounce things off of, and you're a safe place for that.
Yeah, they just keep going as a parent, even if many times you get shut down because it's just part of it. But how do you know when there's a red flag around it, right?
Right. Well, as a parent, it can be tough, but there's your intuition oftentimes as a parent that like, this is bigger, something's bigger here, or they're getting more and more reclusive. I think that's one of the bigger ones, is when you're seeing a shift in behavior that is noticeable, right? They used to come out of their rooms, a little bit after school, finally, when they're more regulated or, relaxed, and either they want to talk or they just want to engage with family. And then you start seeing that they're not
even doing that.
Yeah, that you're like, it's dinner time and you're calling them down for dinner. Or you're seeing more explosive moments too, whether it's behavior, right? In teenagers, oftentimes it's still, with kids in general, their emotions are displayed in their behavior. And it's true for teens too. And you may hear from the school that, they're struggling a little bit. Or you may see it with their siblings, right? That they're being a little harder on their siblings, or you just see a change. That's the time that maybe something internal. They're struggling with something internal.
And then, so that's sort of those kids that turn internal. Obviously, there are teenagers also who have big feelings in a much more overt way. They talk back. They are not interested in the doors slamming, all those kinds of big feelings, dare I say tantrums, for those teenagers. So what are some key ways to think about those? Is it just like we talked about with the big kids, those 8, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, that you're just, look, I get you're going through something. I'm here to talk when you're ready to talk like a human and in a respectful way. Or is there something else? Like, how do we help our kids in that way?
So I think the one piece is like having guardrails, like what is okay and what's not okay in our house. So it's not okay to hit, right? It's not okay to swear, whatever in your family feels like the comfortable guardrail. And what you want to teach and model for them is that the feelings are okay. Like we all have feelings. And I think sometimes what parents try to do is minimize the feelings, but what we want to minimize is the behavior, not the feelings. We want to encourage like whatever is going on in them and help them to release that or communicate that in a respectful way. So having guardrails about what's okay and not okay, and then having methods for them to get those feelings out. So for teenagers, sports are a great way. So movement,
right.
That, I mean, think
Exercise,
about the chemicals in the brain for teenagers that are just wacky and wild. And so having methods for them that are like healthy to release their frustration and emotions. And also, again, knowing that the behavior is an indication of something. And so the something is not what you want to shut down. So you want them to, I mean, they're still children, right? Their brains aren't done developing until they're 30.
Wow.
So, and the part of the brain that takes the longest to develop is that sort of area of sort of the air traffic control of like what manages all these things going on inside them or in the world. Like that's the part where, they forget their homework 6 times. Like that's the part of the brain that's not developed yet, is to remember those things. And so modeling, again, as a parent, modeling sort of the management of all that's going on. So, I see, you're really upset, or, I got another call from the school. So I realize, that something's going on, and, I'm here to talk about it, and I will come back to you because
Yes.
every child needs an adult to talk to. It doesn't have to be their parent. It can be someone else. It can be a therapist. It can be a, family members, anybody.
Teacher,
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
But I always say to my kids, and invite parents just to make sure that their kids have one safe adult to talk to. And if it's not going, and if they don't, then, and there's other triggers for where you would want to consider therapy, but one of them is if they don't have an adult to talk to, or they're really emotionally shut down, then it might be time for them to see a therapist who can help them sort of manage, unlock some of those emotions,
name the feelings,
them.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to be in therapy forever. Once they get some of that, you may become that person for them, or they always know that they have that therapist, hopefully, to go back to if they're struggling with something else.
One thing I want to hit on too is just sometimes it comes out in like sibling rivalry or, arguments with siblings. That is so triggering for me. I think it is for most parents. Why is that?
It can be, obviously, we were siblings as kids,
Yes.
right? So a lot of these things, and this is what dysregulates us as parents, is that it reminds us of something in our childhood.
Yes.
And that is so deeply embedded in our brains sometimes, like we don't even know that that's what's going on. It's like you feel dysregulated immediately and you don't know why. And sometimes it's from that. Other times it's just that heightened emotion in your house. And as a parent, just that level of, aggressiveness or anger or any of that can kind of dysregulate you. And I know that with my kids, I often will say to them, like, that it's really hard for me to have that kind of back and forth anger or whatever it might be in the house. And so like there are limits to like, what, like screaming at each other and, obviously hitting, like there's limits to what's okay. And help them again to re-regulate, calm down, whatever they're mad at the other sibling, and help model them talking about it. Because think about what that does for them as adults when you have helped model for them talking out an argument, is that they walk into adulthood being able to do that with other people, like partners or friends or whatever it might be. You're always trying to give them the skills that they're going to need as an adult.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And so every opportunity is one for a teaching moment, right? With the reminder that we're not going to get it right at most of the time as parents.
Well, and I think
right?
that's a good point. So how do we reset if we have lost our cool or we have done or said something, that we're like, oh, that was too harsh, or that was, I wish I wouldn't have reacted like that. So is there a parent reset that we can do for ourselves and with the kids?
Yes. And actually, I would say that this is probably one of the most important teaching moments for them, is to show them that you make mistakes too, and that you're going to come back and repair them. And so to say, I didn't do that in the way that I hoped. I didn't express that in the way that I hoped, or I myself got too upset and I should have taken a break before I, spoke to you and your brother. And I'm sorry for the way that I spoke to you. And for that, that shows that you're respecting them as a human being. They're another human being, right? And that you love them enough to admit when you've made a mistake and to come back. So to come back to them and come back to the situation and talk it out. And so again, you're modeling something for them that's beautiful, which is that repair. That, some kids grow up thinking like when, let's say there's a break in a relationship, like that's it. It's done, because they don't know how to repair something. And so to teach them repair and for them to see you say, I made a mistake. I messed up. Like that's teaching them that that's okay for them too.
If there was one takeaway for parents who are experiencing tantrums or big feelings with their kids at any of these ages that we talked about, what might that be?
You're not alone. We're all in this together as parents, and that your kids are born without the skills to manage emotions, and dysregulation is not manipulation. It's not the behavior. It's the emotion in their body that's going on that they don't know how to manage at all ages. And that as a parent, it's our job to teach them how to work through those emotions in a respectful way to others, and how to have words for those emotions and learn ways to manage emotions. Really, it's our job is to help kids learn ways to manage emotions.
Just like anything, if there's a teaching moment, this is a teaching moment for us. Yeah.
It's a teaching moment. It's a tough one. It's not easy.
It can be tough.
Yeah.
You know what? I love that rose and thorns. I think we're going to start doing that at my house. That's such a great way to introduce feelings. So.
Absolutely. It's a nice ritual. For sure.
Rebecca, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always appreciate you coming in to be with us. And of course, we'll have more information on our website as well, wgme.com/raisingme. Well, as always, a big thank you to Rebecca. I love having her in here. And I really hope this is the kind of episode that you can come back to if you're having kind of a hard day. A few takeaways really stood out. One is big feelings aren't really bad behavior. Often It's a sign that a child's feeling overwhelmed and really needs help in many cases to get regulated. Also, connection comes first. You can hold boundaries and teach skills, but it works better after those nervous systems can calm down a little bit. And as parents, we don't have to be perfectly calm. We are human too, right? Repair is what matters. Those small shifts also in how we respond can really change the whole tone at home. Thank you so much for listening to Raising Me, and of course to our sponsor of Sweetser Behavioral Health. I'm Adrienne Stein. This episode was edited by Megan Littlefield with production assistance from Carissa Paulson. Please follow Raising Me wherever you get your podcasts and consider a positive rating and review, which helps others to find this message. Wherever you are, I hope you learned something new and get to take a little time for you.
The UPS Store is making packing and shipping Easter gifts quicker than ever this year with UPS Air. How quick? Quicker than a walk around the park. Quicker than eating all the Easter candies. Quicker than finding a golden egg that you know is stuffed with cash. When you ship UPS Air at the UPS Store, your items arrive on time or your money back. Guaranteed at no extra cost. Exclusively at the UPS Store U.S. retail locations. Send Easter joy on time at the UPS Store. Visit the upsstore.com/air guarantee for full details. Terms and conditions apply.